Hey guys, it's V-Man from No Budget Productions, and with me today is Josh. Josh, how are we
Hey,
doing, man?
doing pretty good. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. So I'm gonna lay in bed tonight because my son is having a sleepover, and I don't want to be disturbed by, rah, rah, rah. Okay. I'm gonna let them have as much fun as they want while they search for whatever toys they're wanting and destroy my living room. So with that being said, it's gonna be exotic time on What the Flash.
Well, that's okay. It's par for the course for the show we've been watching for the past
Oh,
3 or 4 years. Weird
it
is just part of it now.
Oh my God, it has been. Uh, so we're going to discuss a couple of things. One, like who we thought was the best villain, who we thought was what season we thought was best, where we thought the show, what we thought the show overall did right, what we thought the show did wrong. Um, but overall, let's talk before we get into all of that. The show as a whole. We'll get into this episode first. So before we get into that, Daniel Vance's greetings and salutations. Well, hello, Daniel
Hey,
Vance. How we
thanks
doing,
for
brother?
joining us.
Absolutely. So I know you being the Cecile fan you are. This had a lot of virtue to it.
Yeah, it's a very virtuous show.
Oh, it certainly was. I Okay, so on a scale of 1 to 10, just this finale episode, what would you give it?
-5.
Was it really that was it really that bad?
It was awful, man. One review I agreed with that somebody made was that it failed the character of Barry Allen in so many ways. You said that the show stopped being the Flash and it became Flash and Friends. I think that's too generous. I think it's more like superhero friends and the Flash kind of shows up.
Yeah.
Um, I think that what we have here is in this final episode, it's a real it puts just an emphasis on what really has been going on with the show since season 6. And what's been going on with the show since season 6 is essentially the reverse, the negative speed force of what happened in Star Trek Picard, because
Yeah.
it's the same thing. Star Trek Picard started off with a creative team that wanted to put their own mark and their own spin on what they thought Star Trek should be, and didn't really care much what the fans wanted. And they created a show that the fans, by and large, just didn't like. Whereas in season 3, that creative team moved on to work on another show. And we got a new showrunner in Terry Matalas who put his own mark on it and ended up creating something the fans liked by and large. What
Yeah.
happened with The Flash in season 6 is the show started with a creative team that understood what fans of the show wanted and put on a clinic for many years on giving that to them. They moved on to another show, Superman and Lois, and the Flash was turned over to a showrunner in Eric Wallace that was more interested in doing what he wanted to do and didn't really care what the fans thought. And the result, this weird show for the last few years that was on TV. And what you're seeing is that the Flash no longer the star of his own show. And the thing I think that you had an interesting premise in that. Okay, Cobalt Blue, everybody's been wanting to see him for years, and everybody knew it was going to be Eddie Thawne.
Yeah.
He brings back all of these classic villains from each season. And keep in mind, it took the Flash the entire, whatever season it was, season 3, season 2, season 1. It took the Flash an entire season to defeat each one of these villains. And what we did was we both diminished the villain and diminished the Flash, in that his sidekicks could defeat each one of these villains in 5 seconds on the first exchange.
Yeah.
What does it say about the ending of the show when the Reverse Flash, The villain of the entire series is defeated in 5 seconds by Allegra.
Yeah.
Allegra. And Doom is just killed instantly in his first exchange with Kate Vix. You know, when Cecile kills Godspeed just by looking at him. And then secondly, Barry, through the last few episodes, he loses every battle he's in. He lost every single fight. All of them. He was easily defeated each time, and had to be bailed out by one of his sidekicks. So we have this character that we've invested in for a decade, watching him become better and better superhero. And at the end of his journey, he's the most pathetic person on the entire team.
Yeah.
They diarrheaed all over him.
Yeah,
No
it's funny. Well, Daniel Vance says Zolomon's capture had me in stitches. Yeah, it's funny because I was so excited to see Teddy come back and play Zolomon, and I hated Godspeed's actor. I felt he was garbage. I felt the character was garbage. I'm not familiar with him in the comic books much, but I don't like the look of him in the comics. I feel like he's just a Reverse Flash knockoff, and there's nothing in the show to show me anything different. I mean, when he says, "I am the god of speed," it's like, man, fuck off, dude. Like, you're a generic knockoff, and again, it's like my thing in the show is, from a guy who has little to no knowledge of the comics. My impression was always change my mind and impress me. I'm going in basically with a blank slate. I am your audience. Like, I loved Impulse as a kid growing up reading the comic book, because I loved that comic book and the humor it brought. But I have little to no knowledge of Flash legacy stuff. So you can change anything in the show, almost anything in the show, and it wouldn't really bother me one bit. But the stuff that they've done in the show was terrible within its own right. Daniel Vance says, and did Nora realize who was in the Savitar suit? That was an odd matchup. So here's my impression of just this episode, and we'll talk about the season as a whole after I'm done giving my thought on this episode. You and I'll discuss the entire season, and then we'll discuss the entire series. Because again, I want to delve into each of these topics individually, because you and I, being fans, and I say that loosely, as the series progresses, fans of the show, I feel like we can discuss this, and we should. I mean, hell, we for the longest time we had a show, but we would always discuss it weekly, whether we did it online or we did it on the phone. But we did it for years. You don't do that for a show that you don't like. This show, the series finale, had. Hold on just a second. Hey, take that into the other room, please. Other room, please. Bless your heart. So the enemies, I was so excited. Like, they start the episode off really well, really strong. Like, Barry comes into it.
The best part of the show.
Yeah.
Best part of the
jumps
episode.
he jumps into action, and was like, it was like, fuck, guys, shit's going down. We gotta go. And everyone's like, yeah, let's go, boss. And I was like, man, I hope there's not a lot of Team Flash in this, because I do not like these guys. But, whatever. Like, this is his team. This is what they're doing. Okay. I always felt, personally, by the time we got to the end of the series, it really should reflect more of the comic, which was Flash on his own, maybe one or two people tops. But this whole Team Flash. Like, stop it. Like that's not what the Flash comic book is. It's not what the Flash is about. Like, his team is the Justice League, not Team Flash, Team Arrow, team that, like, just stop that. So I always felt that Team Flash was okay in the beginning, but not at the end of the show. It should be Barry. That's what he's been working toward the whole time. He doesn't need a team anymore. He is a hero on his own.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, we certainly didn't get to that point. Being in this episode, I knew we were not going to get to that Flash dies in the crisis type paper that we had been seeing since the beginning, which I've always been disappointed with. That, I mean, that was the hugest payoff for the longest time, and we never got there. And I always still felt that we should have somehow tapped back into that, because I still felt we should have, but I digress.
That should have been the end of the show.
In some way, they should have paid that off in some way.
Yeah.
But again, whatever. So we have all 5 villains. I didn't like the house where all 5 villains pop into, because I felt that was somewhat hokey. And Savitar was very intimidating in season 3. He was very imposing. Him, I don't know if it was the camera angles, but like, he just looked. It looked very much like a rubber suit, you know. I mean, it looked. I mean, he looked on par with like Toka and Razor from, you know, Ninja Turtles 2, Secret of the Ooze. You know, it looked just like, he's right here. I mean, he didn't look imposing at all. And again, like, when you have a larger than life, like, mechanical suit, like, you want to make it imposing, you know. But he was just on par with a character as stupid as Godspeed, and Teddy Sears, and Zolomon, in that their back and forth, him and Godspeed, their banter back and forth was written so poorly. It wasn't quippy, it wasn't clever, it wasn't I really fucking hated it, because it was just like, these are clearly not well written characters. Obviously Godspeed was written the same as he was in his season, but if you go back to season 2, which I just got done watching about 2 weeks ago, Zolomon was such a well written character, and he's not written that way here. And that's the problem that I have with Eddie, is he feels like such a different character. And it's not the fact that his motivations has changed, it's the fact that it's the quality of the material that he's gotten. And it's that's definitely the case with Eobard Thawne. And he's been that way for seasons. He hasn't been the same. Whereas if you go back to season 1,
I at least thought that part where he made fun of both Godspeed and Zoom was funny, where he was like, "Oh, you just stole everything from my book," and Zoom's like, "Are you mocking me?" And he's like, "Oh, that's good." You know, I kind of thought that was funny, but it's just me.
I did like that, but I'll get to the quality of him in a second. So we get to the part with the matchup. You know, their Team Flash is meeting Cobalt Blue, and then all of a sudden here comes Team Zoom, or no, Legion of Zoom.
Legion of Zoom.
And I have to say, like, if you want a great wallpaper for your background on your computer, like, that's it. That's a great visual. You know, Legion of Zoom versus Team Flash. Like, that's a great fucking visual. However, everything up to that point, I can stand with you. Then the fight starts happening, and I fucking hate Nora. I wish Savitar would have fucking killed her, because I'm not like, when she says, when Auntie Cecile messages you from 40 years in the past, you better show up. Fucking hell. Who talks like that for one? Now I love the actress. I love Jessica Parker Kennedy. Um, but here's the thing. The back in the early days, time travel was such a rare thing, and it was such a rarely used thing, and it was such a wonderful idea. And now it's, hey, I got to get to the store. They ran out of eggs at the store. Hey, I'm going to go to 2049, pick up some eggs. You need something while I'm out? Yeah, give me a Coke. Am I wrong? Tell me I'm wrong.
No.
And hey, I can't super speed there, so I'm gonna have Grandma Cecile just mind mental do me back there. Oh, okay, great. Oh yeah, I didn't, 40 years from now I don't have my super spandexy suit, but I'm gonna have it right now. Oh, okay, great, cool. What? Like the thing is, like, I'm not a fan of Cecile. I don't. I tried to watch this without the bigotry, and I already say, like, I have it in spades with her. However, where the fuck did you get that suit? You didn't just have it made between the last episode and this one, because Chester's too busy like making out with Allegra and trying to be Mr. Cool, generic Cisco. Like, where the fuck did this come from? It doesn't make sense. And then Barry's like, you know, Plan Delta 15 or whatever the fuck he says. Like, they've been practicing shit. Dude, you ain't been practicing nothing because you've been gone for all these episodes being taken by the blue light. Like, none of this shit makes sense. And that's what pisses me off. At least if they had some type of, training programs where they were doing this shit, where it showed, hey, this is what we've been doing. But they don't. And it's extremely aggravating because you have, but I still don't even know what the fuck Caitlin Snow's name was, and I don't want to be told by anybody. Just fuck off. It's Caitlin. Like, she's doing what
I was calling her Kate Vix because she wasn't Caitlin and she wasn't Killer Frost. Neelix and Tuvok, Tuvix. So I was calling her Kate Vix.
Yeah, like, it's just, Daniel Vance says, at least Nora has dropped the baby talk and sounds like a bit more grown up. It was so infantilizing and did a total disservice to the actor and the character both. Dude, no shit. Like I've said before, I saw that show that she was in. I think it's Black Sails, I think, and she's in that. And like, her tits are out in that, in like half the episodes that she's in. And I'm watching Flash the whole time, where she is clearly a grown-ass woman, but she's acting like a fucking teenager. And I'm like, I feel very uncomfortable watching this show while my wife is over here watching this show. And I'm like, I can't watch this show. Like, I feel like a fucking pervert. Like, this is creepy on so many levels. So I hate the character of Nora. And again, like, why are we jumping 40 years? And it's just like, are we like, at any point I'm hoping that the time wraiths show up and just fucking nab Nora. Like, I make her the Black Death because I fucking hate her. Like, I really, really do, because she's just so irritating. And again, I like the actress. I think she does a great job in what she does. But the character is so annoying. Look, the character died. Let that character die. I thought it was extremely disrespectful to the character when you brought her back as, oh, yaka, 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 I'm a new character with the same character, and I know all about the old one, and I'm not the same, but I'm still the same, and what? Just stop. Just stop. Please just stop. But anyway, I digress. have Savitar. Like, I was excited when Savitar stabbed her. I was like, yes, finally. And then she vibrates, and she's fine. And first off, like, I looked at the vibrating, just her belly's vibrating, and I was like, that's a great weight loss program. Like, could you imagine going to Taco Bell and your belly just vibrates and, like, it's just all out? Like, you don't have to worry about nothing. But I felt like, you took out Savitar, Well, season 3 was crap then because you just took him out, easy peasy. And then
Yeah,
you
like
had
nothing.
yeah, and then you had Cecile.
Sway!
Yeah, fuck you. Then you had uh virtue fucking dude, I no shit, go watch it on YouTube. I wish I had my laptop with me because I'd pull it up on screen. Just go back to that scene. Any one of you who are watching this, go on YouTube and watch the scene of her taking out fucking Godspeed, and just how she runs old woman style, like in costume, and starts pushing and pushing and pushing. Like, dude, it is so, I'm embarrassed for her because I'm like, dude, no, honey, don't. Just stop
Th-
it.
th-
Like,
There, there's this video on YouTube of this guy who's like a chi master, and
mm,
it's, you talk about like martial arts BS. There's BS martial arts out there. And there's this guy, he's a chi master, and he supposedly like throws his chi at people. And there's this thing where like all these guys are running at him, and he just holds his hand out and they fall over. And then so what happened was just a regular MMA guy challenged him to a fight. And the fight is he goes out there and the MMA guy just punches him in the head and he falls over, and that's the end of it. Because it's
mm,
garbage. It's nonsense. And
yeah,
she's doing that. She's mastered the secret technique of the Dem Mock, where she's just like you know it, she's putting her hand out, and the Godspeed copies are dying. Ooh, 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 ooh.
yeah,
And then when she fights the real Godspeed, she just decides that's too much effort, so she just looks at him and he dies. And
yeah,
it became what it became with Cecile is, look, and it's not about like the actor or anything like that.
yeah,
What it is with Cecile is that she's just so badly written, in
yeah.
that they just, whatever superpower they want her to have, they just give to her. Like, never at any point in 9 years could she fly, and in this episode she just starts flying. You're like,
Yeah, when did
wait,
you learn? Well,
when did
like
she
I was
start
watching.
flying?
Well, like I told, like I about a week and a half ago, I started binge watching season 2 and season 3. I started, and like Cecile shows up, and I was like, oh fuck, I haven't, like, wow, this is before I started hating you. Like, and she was not annoying. I wasn't. Her voice didn't grate on my nerves. Nothing. Like she, like, wow. And the one thing about this episode that I was like, that I completely fucking forgot was, hey, you have an entirely different daughter out there that we've completely and conveniently forgot about. Like, wow. Like, is anyone ever going to remember that, hey, Cecile still has another daughter out there? And even,
Kind of
it's
like
nice to know
how
that,
kind of like how we forgot that Chester had black hole powers.
yeah, yeah, it's nice to know, though, that even in 2049, not only does she, I mean, not only do you abandon your real family, you abandoned her long, long ago. But so, like, I'm not even going to get talking to the Zolomon Caitlyn fucking fight, where it's like, look, that just was, oh well, we got to have something for these two to do. Okay, just pair them together. Which I felt like, well, why? You've already kind of done that once before in season 3 when Black Flash comes back and Killer Frost froze him. Like, you don't need to have these two fight. I mean, you've already done that. Like, what's the point? So I felt, what's the point? And then the other one with Reverse Flash, you had him go all uh who's Darth Vader's master?
Oh,
Palpatine.
Palpatine, yeah.
Like, can any of these speedsters remember, hey, we're fucking faster than these people. We could fucking kill these guys before they even have a thought. But he doesn't do
Yeah.
that. He's like, oh, let me just lightning zap you. Or one of the other people are like, oh, let me throw lightning at you like a spear, or what. Like, just fucking run and get them. Like, the thing is, I felt one of these people should die because there should be some gravitas to this. There should be some weight to
Yeah.
this. Somebody should die. Not that I really would give a shit because I haven't cared about Team Flash for a long time, but somebody should die. There should be some weight to this. And if anybody should die, hey, Chester's probably the most likable out of these people. Or at least he was at one time. I've long since stopped caring about him for the longest time. But nothing would be more poetic than Reverse Flash killing the Cisco knockoff with the to the chest. But I mean, if
Yeah.
you're gonna lightning zap him like Palpatine, fuck man, just go straight for the heart, and then have
Yeah.
Allegra zap him. But
There was
you
nothing.
did
There
it.
was nothing Cisco could do. He just killed him. And then Allegra just 5 seconds zaps him. That's it. That's the end of him. It's like what a sad end for like the greatest villain.
All of these
Awful.
villains, the same. I don't know where Royce is. Is he in the bathroom or in his room? The same thing could be said for all of these villains. Like you brought them back for basically the wallpaper on our desktops if we want them, and that was about it. A huge paycheck for them, but what did they give us? Because I have not seen anybody go, man, that was the greatest fight of all time. Haven't seen it, not at all. Because it wasn't for the Flash, because he got his ass whooped. All of these characters took down the enemies in probably I want to say every fight lasted at most 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, I would rather have gotten more screen time with those enemies than Joe proposing to Cecile, which I don't give a fuck about. Than
We didn't
Barry
even. I didn't even realize they weren't married. I thought
I
like,
mean,
oh, they're not married yet. Like because I'm watching that going, it looks like he's about to propose, but aren't they married already?
yeah. And the other thing that bothered me was the one little crack of common sense was instantly shoved out the door by everybody. And I was like, man, if the show already wasn't parody, this is it. Nora finally asks, hey, I'm here holding my baby counterpart. Don't you think this kind of breaks the timeline? And everyone's like, nah, it's all right. It's okay. And I'm like, hey, you should drop the baby. like, like, guys, this is like, what would Doc Brown say? Like,
well, go back to the very beginning of season 3, when Jay Garrick pulls Barry out of the timeline and says, "Stop trying to mess with the timeline."
That's another thing. Where the fuck did he come from? And really, what purpose did he say? Like, nobody, like, and that, like, and the party. Everyone's just like, oh, hey, that the one cop is looking at Harry Wells. Nobody's going, hey, don't you look like the guy that fucking killed Barry's mom, or the guy that fucking took out half the city, or the guy that fucking, like, dude, you're a mass murderer. Like, dude, everyone knows you're fucking Reverse Flash. We should probably take him out. Like, dude, you're right there. Like, you've got everyone from Team Flash. You got heroes galore. You got fucking everyone zipping around. Like, you've got everyone mingled around, and then you got everyone from CC newspaper, whatever, from like, you got everyone mingled together, time travelers, speedsters, superheroes, newspaper people, police people, like, everyone and their brother. It's a good thing nobody's putting it all together. Like, good God. Like,
they could all figure out that Barry was the Flash. But it goes through nobody's head that this guy might be.
It's a good thing, like, a red curtain doesn't just fall down on Barry. Like, hey guys, real fast, I'll pull this off my head. Like, fast, red, Barry. Like, just damn it. So Daniel Vance,
again, you bring up Timeless Wells. Where did he come from? Like, he just appears.
I'm so tired of all these like, it was cute at first with Wizard whatever Wells and voices galore, and I stopped fucking caring about that a long time ago. Just fucking stop, dude. Just stop. Because it's like every time we get rid of one, it's like 3 more pop up, and you're like roaches at this point. Just fucking stop. So Daniel Vance says they leveled up and took running off the bars. God damn it. That's our new life. We're leveling up, baby. We're leveling up. Fucking shit.
Go.
And
Okay, so
how does
you go.
How does Allegra run in those heels? Holy cow, they are so tall. I'll be honest. I love looking at Allegra. I never noticed she had heels. Never noticed the heels. That's all I have to say.
So, you go back to season 2, for example,
Yes.
and you have a lot of characters in season 2 that have powers, that have like really impressive powers. Killer Frost, Firestorm, Reverb. Zoom just kills all of them.
Yep.
Like, no problem. You know why? Because he doesn't see them coming. They don't see him coming. Killer Frost is like, guys, do you know what will happen if Zoom finds out that we're going behind his back, and he just kills Firestorm before Firestorm even knows what happens? He's like, that, just out of nowhere kills him because the dude runs at the speed of light. You can't see him coming. And it was like the speedsters were just like, and then they're dead. And then
Yeah.
the thing about Eddie. Did you notice how weird he was running?
I loved it. I loved it because it reminded me of like one of those Muppets that fucking they're just like bouncing up and down and their hair's flopping. I loved it though. Like the CGI was so terrible, and okay, let's break into. Let's break into this season and this story arc, because I feel like we're
Okay.
delving into the bigger gripes because we're delving into the CGI. I feel like the problem with the Cobalt Blue character, because we've all wanted it for so long. I feel like everything with this, get rid of the interlude parts, the filler fucking episodes, and give us more of the Cobalt Blue story arc, because this whole thing, I didn't need all of those enemies to come back. I didn't need that. I needed a really good Barry, you son of a bitch, you took my life. I want you. I want to take you out. I needed that time with not future Iris. I needed the time with Iris here, where he needs that time. That time with Caitlin, that time with Joe, that time with everybody. Like, this should have been Eddie's moment where I don't have that life. What about the ramifications? Because Eddie had I mean, there's ramifications for everybody in the series. I mean, it would have been a great time. They talked to Carlos, the guy who played Vibe, about coming back for the final episode. Fuck that. What if he couldn't come back for the final episode? What if he had a couple of episodes, or maybe even just one, where he came back for a moment and Cobalt Blue shows up there and is like, you're one of the people who I should have been with, who I shared some experience with. Like, go back to season 1, watch that, and be like, who did he have an effect on? Eddie. And have that been the latter part of this season. I didn't need those filler episodes, because honestly, I don't think I watched them. I really don't. I did not give a shit about any of them, because all the secondary episodes, all of the Team Flash people, I didn't care about it. This whole season has been nothing but a Legends of Tomorrow knockoff with Flash as the lead. It was Legends of Tomorrow, and I fucking hated that show. First season was great. Rest of it, nope. And
Well, I mean,
so.
I think you're a layer down. Like, it's not just that we didn't need the interlude, you know. we didn't need the fucking Red Death storyline either. They should have just made the whole season. They took the whole season and just pissed it away. You had it was 4-4-4. So you had 4 start episodes with the Red Death, 4 episodes in the interlude. Why? And then 4 episodes with this Cobalt Blue. Why not just make 12 Cobalt Blue episodes or whatever?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it was extremely disappointing. Like, at the end of this episode, like I was visibly mad. Like, I was grumpy getting my numbers as I walked to the floor, and I was like, what? Don't talk to me. you know um people would be like, "Hey, V man," I'm like, "Don't fucking talk to me. Just just let me get my numbers and leave me alone." The question that I sat when I got back to my desk was like, did we need a season 9? I was pissed off at season 8 when we had Impulse singing, because I'm like, Impulse doesn't do that. That's not an Impulse thing. I understand the actor can sing, the actor likes to sing, but that's not the character. And I really hate when they have the character do what the actor likes to do. That to me is a disservice. I mean, it's one thing when it coincides, but when you have the character do something that's so out of bounds that hey, we're gonna have Impulse sing. Nobody asked for that, and it was so odd. So when you sit there and you look at it and you ask yourself, did we benefit from having a season 9? The answer is no. I did not enjoy it. I didn't want to watch any of the episodes. None of them looked appealing. Batwoman or Red Death or whatever the fuck her name was, we still don't even know where she went. It was never answered. It wasn't enjoyable watching her say half the lines from either the Batman or Dark Knight trilogy stuff. She was a terrible character. That actress, I've never talked shit on her, but terrible actress. I can see why they canceled Batwoman. She's fucking terrible. I feel like Zan right
there. I wanted to kill myself. I think that the whole show, season 6 onward, has just been a waste. I mean, you have stuff going on like from the very beginning. We're following this character, Barry Allen, Flash. This is who we're investing in. This is who we're tuning in to see. This is the person we're going on the adventure with. And every year for so many years, we're seeing him grow as a superhero, become faster, become a better superhero, mature into a leader. We're taking his hero's journey with him. And at the end of his hero's journey, it was absolutely marginalized. It was like Eddie was a speedster for one episode. One episode, he became a speedster 10 seconds ago, and he's a better speedster than Barry.
Well, and the fight, the fight was 5 minutes, and it wasn't even a fight. And the answer, the solution, and the solution, which wasn't even, and the solution, which wasn't even his, was tell him not to. Oh,
and he's been doing that.
Who didn't see that coming?
He's been doing that since season 7, and his superpower is a pep talk, not speedster stuff. It's giving a pep talk.
The only thing missing from that pep talk was, well, but we're not in the pipeline hallway, the Star Labs hallway to have this pep talk of, because that's where pep talks are usually given. So that would have brought it all the way around, like I'm so sick and tired. Like, this should have been what we wanted the Reverse Flash fight with him to be, like the be all end all, the fucking, especially for the final episode. And I'm sorry, but like, if your budget went to bringing back Teddy Sears, went back to bringing Tom Cavanaugh, went back to bringing the CGI shit for Savitar and that dopey actor who played Godspeed, like, dude, fucking keep your budget. Like, make it for the CGI for Cobalt Blue, so he doesn't look like a Muppet that's flopping around. Like, I mean, and again, like, the CGI is not my problem. I can deal with bad.
I don't even think it was a matter of CGI. I think it was laziness on the part of the people executing it. Because, okay, so go back to that episode where they go back to Nora's death, okay? And there are 2 shots in that episode of the Reverse Flash running, okay? One of them is a reuse of a shot from season 1. And the other is a shot they took for that episode. In the reuse of the shot from season 1, it's a really cool angle, and it's like a really neat thing. And he looks him, it's not a computer generated image. It's an actor on a green screen on a treadmill running, and they're doing effects on it. But just the angle of the shot is so badass. If you look at it, like he's leaning forward and it's like an interesting angle. And if you look at the shot they made for the episode, he's just like, and it looks ridiculous. It was laziness on the part of the people actually composing the shots.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, no, it was the thing is like the CGI in this was terrible, but I can overlook a lot of those things in terms of if you give me a great story, it's great. I would rather them have just cut out the bullshit of most of the season and just given me Cobalt Blue. Give me a story with Eddie, a character that I've wanted, a character that I loved. None of the shit that I asked, I didn't ask for any of it. And they substituted Barry, a character that I loved, for these characters that I didn't, and the characters that honestly I hated before, and now I absolutely despise. Now, if I watch The Flash again, I will stop around probably when they cut out Ralph. When they cut out Ralph, because I honestly, it'll probably be the season before, because I think the season before was when it stopped being like the season with the mirror. I can't stomach that. I can't stomach that season, honestly. And Ralph isn't even a saving grace for that. But I think
that's where it started. That's where that guy took over. Eric Wallace was that weird mirror monarch nonsense.
Yeah, that was
which they defeated her by going, hey, have you ever thought about not being a villain? Oh.
Yeah, I wasn't liking season 1 was great for me. Season 2 was also great for me. Season 3, not as good, but still enjoyable. Season 4 was hit or miss. I was really bummed that Kid Flash left. And I didn't really enjoy the Thinker. I really was let down with him as a villain, but at least it was not another speedster. But it just didn't keep me going. And season 5 with Cicada, I wanted to like it more than I did, but with the mixture of too much focus on Nora really bothered me with the biker helmet that Barry wore. I think that was probably the last season that I could kind of stomach. And that's given it a little bit too much credit. I think that was probably the last tolerable season, and that's putting it mild. I barely tolerated that. It took a lot for me to come back the next season, and I didn't want to. I really hated Nora. I hated the Flash at that point. I honestly, every episode I was like, why am I coming back to this? Because I fucking hated the show at that point. She really turned me off the show because it to me, when you cut out my favorite character in the Flash, which was Kid Flash, because you're like, well, to have two speedsters on here, it takes away from Barry, and we can't do this, and we don't know what to do with him. And I'm like, fucking train him to be the next Flash. Fucking train. He's got a legacy to live up to. What are you talking about? Fine, whatever. You guys got rid of him, and that pissed me off. But then you have Nora, which is, oh, what are we doing? We're building her a legacy and training her up, and it's, what are you fucking talking about? You could have done that with the next guy. You know, to me, it was such a disservice to the character. And I love those legacy characters. I do love Speedy. I do love what was Roy's sidekick name? I forget what his sidekick name was on Arrow. But I love those sidekick characters. My favorite character is Robin, but so I gravitate toward Kid Flash. But to bring in Nora, and then again having a grown woman act like a fucking 13-year-old, like this is not. If Royce ever acts like that, I'm smack the shit out of him. Like, grow up,
Yeah.
and it's just the only saving grace in that shit was Ralph. And it's just, there's been no saving grace in the show for years, you know. So let me ask you this. When do you think the show, because obviously you haven't enjoyed the show like you did in the beginning for a while now. When do you think the show became unbearable?
Okay. Well, I would say, I believe it or not, despite doing this show, I'm not one of those people who's just trying to be a critic. I think people are too negative. I think people are too hard on stuff these days.
Hmm.
And so I'm not the kind of person that's going in there letting whatever take me out of it. Like it I really do try to just enjoy something for what it is, and not get all worked up. Um, and so my tolerance for this show is probably higher than yours. Uh,
Hmm.
I feel like season one was amazing, but I really feel like season two was the peak of the show. I feel like
Yeah.
season two was the best season. And it's hard to compare those two because they're both such good seasons. But season two, I felt, was the peak of the show. And I, I love Reverse Flash, but I thought I loved Zoom as a villain. He was evil, man. He was frightening. He was intimidating. He was a great villain, and Barry to grow as a speedster, and he had to grow as a superhero and use his mind in order to defeat him. And I thought that's cool. Um, I always expected that there would be a drop off on in season three because it's hard to maintain that kind of momentum. When you start off so well, it's hard to maintain that. So I figured season three would be a bit of a drop off. The only thing that, with season three for me was just that it was so dark. It's like, wow, this is really super freaking
Yeah.
dark.
Especially.
It was exhausting a little bit in how dark it was. And so I liked that season four was a little bit more lighthearted. I appreciated that. Um, DeVoe as a bad guy didn't really bother me. And he has lame aspects, but really the highlight of season four for me, Ralph.
Yeah.
I absolutely love Ralph, and I thought that once Ralph was there, dude, Ralph was he usurped Barry. Uh, in the same way Cecile did, but he didn't do it because the writers tried to force him to usurp the show from Barry. He was just such a great character that you just liked him more. And
Yeah.
I absolutely adored Ralph. And what else was great about season four is season four was the absolute peak of the Flash costume. The
Yeah.
season four Flash costume, amazing. It was the best one he had.
Yeah.
Um, and then um, season five did not bother me the way that it did you, and nor did not bother me the way that she did you. But I definitely understand your reasoning for why she bothered you as much as you did, especially with your affection for Kid Flash, and then she sort of stole his legacy a little bit. That
Yep.
can be frustrating. I did find her kind of annoying, but she's so dadgum cute, you just kind of let it go a little bit. But it's like I enjoyed Cicada. I enjoyed the story. I liked the storyline of season five. I just thought his suit was a crime against God and the laws of nature or something. I don't know what they were thinking with that. It was just like the suit went off a cliff in season five, where you're like, what is this? But it was like the season was itself was enjoyable enough to sort of give the suit a pass a little bit for me. And I hoped that maybe in the next season they would realize the error of their ways and correct it. And they did. The season six forward suit kind of seemed like an apology for the season five suit. But at the same time, the season five suit just looked like they put him in some kind of weird, like, cloth it just didn't have a presence like the suit did previously. Like the suit seasons 1 through season 4 had like a presence. It was bulky, it was strong, it was, it had character. This was like he just put on some spandex or something, like if you look at the back of his head, it's like there's this kind of folded, wrinkly cloth thing instead of like a nice, and then, but looking, man, he pulled it off. He made the suit look good. He looked good in the suit, especially when the helmet was off. He was really good in it, and he was always good. Like Grant was always good. He was always a great actor, even when they gave him garbage material. He was good, and he played the character in a way to where it was believable that he was maturing. You felt like at the very beginning of the show he was a kid, and you feel like by later in the show he's an adult and a leader. So there's that, but where it really got embarrassing with the suit design was when they started putting those suits on Tom Cavanaugh, because it wasn't flattering on him. It really wasn't. Like the reverse Flash version of that suit just looked embarrassing on him. I would have been angry if I were him. And then, back in season 1, when you'd see him in the reverse Flash costume, he's like vibrating and his eyes are glowing and it was doing this thing. And then now he's just kind of running around in this goofy suit looking ridiculous, and they're not even doing anything.
No.
It was where I think for me, it fell off a cliff was right when they came back from Crisis on Infinite Earth. It was just absolute garbage after that. Like it was just trash. They came back from Crisis and it was just up until then, I loved it and could deal with it. I felt like the start of season 6 was a little boring, but it wasn't unwatchable until right when they came back after Crisis. It was like, what is this? And then they get into the mirror thing was so boring. Like I thought, because we'd fought villains the entire season, I thought we were going to be fighting Bloodwork the entire season. Then suddenly he's gone and we're doing this mirror monarch thing. And I'm like, what is this? This is so boring. And it was like, it was boring. But then you get into season 7, they're doing this strength force, still force, what, hey dad, whatever that was.
Hey mom.
It was just weird. It was weird, dude. It was like, what show is this?
Yeah.
And then they get into like season 8 and they're doing avatars and all this. I'm like, what is this, the last Airbender?
See,
like, did we forget what superhero show this was?
See, that's where I feel like the Flash. It's really started losing me with the avatars and this force and this force. And I know the forces is something that's in the comic, and I get that. It's just like with the Green Lantern rings and the fear lanterns and the anger lanterns and whatever else. It's like I get that, but it's like at a certain point you just got to say, look, this looks really good on paper. Can we execute this properly? And I feel like in the comics, you can execute a lot of things cool. But when you put it on a TV show, does this feel right? Like, again, like if you're going to do some stupid shit with the forces and have them say, Mom, Dad, it would have been great if Barry would have been like, let's go play ball, pal, son, with the guy that's got more facial hair than Barry. Like, I love that. Like, I want to meme that now. It's just bad.
The other problem we ran into too is that when you talk about ensemble, we're complaining so much about ensemble. If you go back to the beginning of the show, dude, the ensemble cast makes that show. We like Cisco. We love Wells, Harry. We love Caitlin. all of these characters are good. Joe, these are all good characters. When you love the fighting and the banter between Cisco and Harry Wells. You know, these guys are giving each other a hard time, but they're really best buds. Caitlin is everything you want in a character. You know what I mean? Like, these are likable, wonderful characters, and they're a big part of the reason you're watching this. And these sidekick characters now are just so bad. I don't know
Well,
how else to describe it.
they're lifeless. Like the thing is, like, we spent how many seconds watching Allegra kissing Chester, and I didn't
Oh,
give a shit. And then when they start talking about what power he has, and they start spelling out the anagram, and he starts dancing, and all I can think about is, like, we're spending time on this in the final episode, and then Joe proposes to Cecile, and I'm like, we're spending time on this. And then Nora's holding baby Nora. And I'm like, we're spending time on this. Like, so much time is spent to lifeless characters. And again, we've spent a lot of time with Nora, but she's still lifeless because I don't care about her, because you've beat her over the head, or beaten me over the head with her and them so much that I don't care, because you've not given me enough Barry, enough competent Barry. Because the thing is, in the beginning, they were there to service Barry, no pun intended, and don't mean to sound perverted, but but these characters aren't. Barry is a prop for these characters to get over, and that is so sad because it's the Flash, not Legends of Cecile. So Daniel Vance says, I blew through each episode this season in about 15 minutes. So much felt superfluous. Yeah, you guys
superfluous.
see. Yeah. Yeah. And no, you're absolutely right. There were episodes I skipped, and when I came back, I was like, oh, I didn't miss nothing. And that's so much of the Flash these past couple of years. You don't miss much. You can watch a recap and go, oh, okay, I get it. Or you can watch someone's review of the film and go, well, that saved me about 30 minutes of my time. On the drive home, as you're driving home from work, you can listen to a review and go, fuck, I'm glad I didn't watch that shit.
See, stop at Crisis on Infinite Earths. Just stop.
Yeah.
And then somebody needs to just go in with editor and just cut the scene where they go in and flash and reverse flash, go to the house, and they relive that, and Barry stops himself, and then they have that scene where Barry wins, where you see that really Barry won that night, and the reverse flash has to realize what's about to happen, that he's going to spend 15 years in the past, and he realized this is a fixed point. Barry knew it was going to happen, and you see that Barry is healed, that he's gotten over it, that we've come to the other side of that journey. Just take that scene out, that scene only, and that's the only thing you need season 6.5 onward. One scene. That's all
Yeah.
you need.
It's
That's
terrible.
it.
Daniel
Not
Vance
even that
says,
whole episode. One scene.
yeah. Daniel Vance says, I lost interest in the team right around season 6 after Flash and Grodd merged. The scene of the OG Flash disappearing on the treadmill in Crisis, and still the best scene the show ever did. Daniel Vance says, so that's what happened in those bits. I flash time through. Yeah, it's God. So real quick, before we go, because we're approaching the hour mark, and I know it's getting late. What was your best moment throughout the entire series? What was your best moment?
Series.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I know I sprung that one on you. I figured that was a lot better than who was the worst villain.
Well, the worst villain was Mirror Monarch. That was
Yeah, I
the
agree
worst.
with you. Yeah.
Even Bloodwork was more interesting than her.
Yeah.
The best villain was Zoom. I feel like the best villain was Zoom. I would say my favorite episode, oddly enough, was the one in season 2 where where the Reverse Flash like shows up, and he's there for the first time, and they explain what a tournament is, and there's this great scene between uh, Matt Letcher playing the Reverse Flash and Tom Cavanaugh playing Harrison Wells, and Harry comes in and he's like, "Yeah, I'm sending you back to your own time," and Reverse Flash is like, "How are you sending me back to my own time?" And he's like, "Don't worry about it." And he's like,
Yeah.
"Who are you?" "Nobody." "Oh, I
Nobody
doubt that."
doubt
And
that. Yeah.
it's the moment where the Reverse Flash meets Wells, and you see wheels start to turning, like, this is my guy right here. And it's a foreshadowing of something that already happened. Thought it was cool. Um, I liked, scenes like where I actually liked this in season 5 where Barry and Nora go back in time and they confront Reverse Flash in it's like an episode within an episode, where it's like there's the version of Barry laying there knocked out, and then Barry comes through the wall again, and oh, you're from a later time period than him, and I liked that. I liked I liked the final battle at the end of season 1 where Barry and Oliver and Firestorm fight the Reverse Flash. And then the scene later on where Barry is questioning him, saying, "Why do you hate me?" Um, you have these two kind of versions of that scene. One in season 1 where Barry says, "Why do you hate me?" And he, "I didn't always," and all this. Two versions of that. There's one in the final episode of season 1, and then that episode in season 2 where it's Matt Letcher, where he's saying, explains like, "I wanted to be you, and I did the experiment, and it worked, and um, I became better than you." Like, I liked that scene. But then you have this scene in season 7 where Barry asks the same question, "Why do you hate me?" And the answer is like, "I was going to be the hero, and then you saved the day instead of me." It Stupid, ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I would a lot of just Barry and the Reverse Flash. I liked anything that had Zoom. He's got the Tony Todd voice. I was almost kind of I was disappointed when Zoom took off his mask and he wasn't Tony Todd. I was like, I was hoping it was going to be Tony Todd. um, but there was this really cool scene in season 2 where Barry, has figured out from Reverse Flash how to be faster than Zoom, and they have this little race. I liked that. I thought there were a lot of great moments in the show, and I just kind of felt like I always loved it. In up until Crisis, and then after that, I felt just nosedive.
I think for me, like you, the Mirror Monarch, I hate Godspeed. I hate Godspeed with a passion because I think Godspeed is a worthless character done poorly, and I think the actor, I don't know if it's direction or if it's the actor. I would think it's the actor because in all the episodes that Godspeed's been in, it's just been poor. So I would say the actor is garbage. Um, but I could be wrong. Could be the director making him look like garbage. So either way, I'm not impressed.
That's when the
Um,
director went to craft services.
I would say get a little bit less better craft service table and
For those
bring.
of you who don't know the joke, we've been making this joke for about 3 years that whenever there's like this horrible scene that the director just went to craft services, it's like, "You guys just do whatever you want. I'm going to craft services."
Yeah. I'd say don't invest so much in craft services and just stay there. Um but I would say with Mira Monarch, I don't care enough about her character to even hate that character. So I would say to be apathetic to a character is even worse than hating the character. So I mean, tell me I'm wrong.
No,
You
you're
know,
good. Yeah, I
up and
agree.
up until you brought her up, all I remembered was, yeah, there were some mirror episodes that really sucked, and that was a terrible time for Flash. And I'm glad that time's over. And then you brought up the character, and I'm like, oh fuck, yeah, that's right, she was a thing. That was a that it's kind of like when you get hit by a vehicle and you're like you blank it out completely, and you're just wandering home, with head trauma and everything. And she's my head trauma. You know, uh, it's a terrible thing. Um, so I would say that for me is the worst villain, because everything else
Mhm.
is either I don't like avidly and I can point to it, or I enjoy for whatever reason. There's something good or bad, but with her it's just lukewarm. I have no feeling about you. I look at you and I'm just drawing a blank. It's like that deer that looks right, it hears a noise and is like, has no idea what the fuck is going on. And that's me looking at her. I'm like, I have no idea. My favorite scenes, most of them have to do with early Flash. I agree with you that Zoom is a great villain. I think Reverse Flash, great villain, both for different reasons. One, I can personally relate to Reverse Flash. I think a lot of us can. We all have somebody in our life that we can look at on a personal level and say, I don't like you for this reason. And we have a personal vendetta. Granted, we don't take it to the extreme.
Or we can look at it and say there was someone in our life that we cared a lot about that turned out to
Right.
be the villain of our story.
Right.
And it was so much more personal because they started out as somebody who meant a lot to us.
Right. But you look at Reverse Flash, and he is just as deadly as Zoom, but he is they're on the same deadly level, but he's not as scary. He's more precision. Um, you both of them, you don't know where they're coming from, but they both could attack at any time. But it's a matter of he's methodical. Where is he going to come? When is he going to come? What's he going to do? And that's the scary part of him. Where's he at? He's like a mysterious force. With Zoom, he's that horror monster that will get you in the dark. Problem with him is there's no running and him slow walking. With him, you can be running normal and he'll fucking speed run to get you. Um, yeah, go ahead, grab the last one, buddy. Uh, so for him, he's great on a much different level. Season 1 and season 2 parallel each other on a lot of different ways, but they veer off. Go ahead. What's that? Last Sprite should be there, buddy. Well, if it's not there, just grab some water. I'll be in a second, buddy. I'm almost done with my show. Okay, bud? Water should be on the table, pal. It's in your Captain America jug. But both are equally as deadly, but one is just scary. And you don't know about he is that horror villain. And I don't think they ever really captured the danger of either one of those two, like they ever, even when they brought them back. When we see Reverse Flash again, he never really has that fear factor. They never quite captured it, and that's fine. um because it's like, everything's always been to try to capture that lightning in a bottle, no pun intended. But it always goes back to that first season. For
Yeah.
me, I any scene with Ralph, uh comedic scenes was what he brought to the table, and that made Flash, it reinvented itself when they brought Ralph on.
Yeah.
It made it fresh,
It was a shot in the arm for the show for sure.
yeah. Because you're right, season 3 was really dark, and then they brought Ralph on, and you're like, oh, we can smile again. So any scene with Ralph, I always paid attention because I'm like, I love this character. I would have to say he's probably my favorite character, hands down, besides Kid Flash. I would say how he's portrayed in the show, it'd probably have to be him. But I would say my favorite scene, hands down, would have to be the scene between Harrison Wells and Eobard Thawne as Harrison Wells, and Cisco Ramon, with the puncturing the heart, where he says, "You are the closest thing I have to a son." Yeah, the very first time, because I mean that was so shocking, because the tension built, and this is I mean, we had known, and for such a long time we're like, we finally found out, oh shit, he we know he can stand, what's going on, okay, and we're trying to justify to ourselves, no, he's not the bad guy, no, he's not the bad guy, and then we see him with the yellow suit and we're like, fuck, no, he can't, okay, we're trying to justify to ourselves, he can't be the man in yellow, no, this can't be it, this can't be, and then he's fucking standing there and we're like, what the fuck? And the internet at the time, we were all coming up with theories. It was a
Yeah.
crazy time to be, and that's what was so
I was
beautiful
just
about
enthralled with it.
Yeah,
I loved it. I was just enthralled with it. I
it was
couldn't pull
great.
myself away from it.
Yeah,
And I would say this is bad. I would say this is even more disappointing than the ending of Smallville.
yeah. With Smallville, we only had one thing that we were disappointed on, at least for me, the fact that we didn't see Tom in the suit. Everything else, I was fine with. And it was okay, because I mean, you knew what we were getting into. For me, it was just one thing that I didn't get what I wanted. With this, dude, it was an entire season of getting nothing.
Well,
Um,
with Smallville, what you had was a creative premise. And that creative premise is the show is Superman before he was Superman. And
yeah,
really, if you look at it, what they did was they carried that through to an extreme. What they should have done was paid it off by making him Superman in the end. And what they ended up doing was taking that creative premise to the extreme. What they did with The Flash that made it so wonderful in the beginning is they had the opposite creative premise. You know what I mean? It was the opposite creative premise. Let's embrace the superhero. But this show, what they did where they let us down in the end is they just basically they took what the creative premise of the beginning of the show and abandoned it. And Neelix, come back, son. Neelix. I'm sorry. They just went off into things. They just went rando on us like that.
I fucking hate you. God damn you. You want to
That's what
explain
they
the joke to
did.
them? You want to explain the joke to them?
Okay. So a few years ago, Vance and I both kind of did the same thing with our fan films, where we put up these videos explaining what we were going to do. This is our update video for Avalon, and there was an update video for Constar. And I did this like really elaborate thing where I set up a camera and I scripted it, and I did like 50 takes, and I had all this beautiful lighting, and I did like this elaborate editing on it. And Vance does his. He's like out in the woods with his dog. And he's like, I'm taking my dog for a walk. And I thought I was taking my dog for a walk to take a shit in the woods, that I would, give you guys an update on what we're doing this year on the Constars. So we're going to have some adventure. Hey, Helix, come back. No, you're going to. Anyway, so we're gonna have some crossovers with some Neelix. Neelix, come back, son. And he's just like, kind of like, he's just like, but my point is that that's what this show did. That it was like, oh, we're gonna have a superhero, Chester, Allegra, Cecile. We're just wandering off from the show. It's what they did. Tell me I'm wrong.
God damn you. I now have the visions of Cecile fighting fucking um
Fucking Chi Master.
who's that
Yeah.
fucking who's that white speedster? Fucking
Godspeed.
yeah, her fucking doing that old woman run and fucking that was so
You know,
embarrassing.
you know what? There with Godspeed, I felt like um there was only one episode where I liked him. And it was the one that tells Nora's backstory where we go into the future where she's from and we learn how she became a speedster and we see him in that episode and because Nora had this like sidekick character, this girl who was like female Cisco. And I liked that. I liked that she had a Cisco, like that there was this other girl and it was like calling her Hot Flash and coming up with nicknames and all. Like I enjoyed that. I thought that was neat. And I thought Godspeed worked in that episode because he wasn't connected to Barry or Barry. He was just this bad guy in the future and he was Nora's bad guy to fight. And that made sense to me. But bringing him back in time and all this,
Yeah, the Flash, I feel it's just the whole time travel thing. The fact that they kept doing it, I feel was the worst thing that they could have done in this show. And I think the one line sums it up, and I think we'll end on this. When Nora says, when Grammy Cecile calls you from 30 years in the past to come help and fight, you come. Fucking no. Just that right there, fucking no. Anyway, that being
wait,
said, Josh,
when I in just one thing to add to that, when I went and saw Star Wars Revenge Sith Theater, I took my wife with me and I took my friend Neil with me. And we're sitting in the theater and Anakin and Obi-Wan come, they come face to face with Dooku again, right? And Obi-Wan goes, "You won't get away this time, Dooku." And my friend Neil is sitting next to me and he goes, and that was his reaction to just like the cheesiest freaking line. And it's the exact same thing with that. Like, just like,
yeah. Well,
it
there were
was
so many.
told you.
There were so many. Like when Cecile finally takes out main Godspeed with just looking at him, and she says, "That's what I call," and I forget what she says. Like it's such. There were so many lines that were eye rolling, and I hate to use the word cringe because everybody says everything is cringe these days, but like it's so nauseating to be like, fuck you, somebody actually got paid to write this filth, and you
Somehow
got paid.
Cecile can lie.
God,
Somehow
yeah.
Cecile can send her consciousness into the future. Somehow, when she wakes up in the future and she's 75 years old, she hasn't aged a day.
Well,
Somehow she can just kill you by looking at you.
that's the other thing is like everybody, and not to insult the actors who played the villains, but like they all looked old as fuck. And I realized that it's like, well, it's 8 years older than most of these people are when they first started. But it's like you're like Tom Cavanaugh, Teddy Sears, fucking, the guy who played Cobalt Blue. It's like you guys are old as fuck and you look older than they did in 2049. It's the show. It's so aggravating. It's pretty sad that the highest enjoyment is coming on here and ripping it with you. uh and that's not to knock you. It's just I wish we had gone out on a high note and we could have said that episode was worth it, because for me it certainly wasn't. We had some good
It's
times over the
sad,
year,
yeah.
but it's something where it's like when we have to say, well, this is the cutoff point, stop watching at this, and let's make up our own canon. Damn.
Well, and it's sad. That is it. That is the end of the Arrowverse. And for a long time, we loved the Arrowverse, and it was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah,
and
it set the bar. Yeah.
Superhero shows on the CW. The fall lineup does not include superhero shows. It's sitcoms and reality TV and game shows. And
well, I will say this now: if they bring back Golden Girls, Josh and I will review that, starting with episode 1. So you hear it now.
Tyler Donovan will get real he'll get real turned on by it if they bring back Golden Girls.
Well, Josh and I will do a show called Shower Me Golden. So that will be you heard it here first, guys.
I mean, look, the CW, we'll see what happens there, man. Their future right now seems to be, the Steve Wilkos show and
a bunch of shit
Povich
that I don't give a fuck about. Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
so
a bunch of shit that if I was over at Granny Cecile's house, then me and Nora would be watching fucking, before we head back to 2049, just fucking whatever, a bunch of shit that I want to watch. But anyway,
I can't say too much about CW because I work there. So
no, much love to the CW. Great. We love everything they put out and subscribe to it's on every TV in my house. I have insomnia because of CW. Anyway, guys, with that being said, I will say this. I'm glad people got paid for the work that they did and had jobs. I think Grant Gustin did a great job and acted with what material he was given. And to those fans that enjoyed the show for as long as they did, hey, I hope you guys were inspired to go out and make your own comic book shows. What you didn't like, I hope you make better in your show. And what you did like, I hope you continue to put there. I at least got to spend time with my good friend from time to time, whether it was on the phone or whether it was in stream. And talk comic books with them. I think it all in its own way made us all better people, whether we liked the show or whether we didn't like the show, whatever elements on either side. So that being said, for 9 years of a show, I thank them. Even if I didn't enjoy all of it, I do thank them because that's a mighty feat these days. So fucking thank CW. So that being said, Josh, I want to thank you, and I will be bugging you for some more stuff. I mean, this isn't the last time I'm gonna talk to you, obviously. One of my best friends. So
we'll find something else to gripe about.
That we'll stream Velma, that fucking show, something that's not CW related, so you can be more harsh. So anyway, so that being said. Everybody at home, be genuine, be safe, and keep on geeking on, guys.